AI is shaking up HR and hiring in a way we've never seen before.
And it's a little bit scary because we don't know. And even the creators of AI are as terrified as they are excited about what AI can do. There's so many ways I think that we can leverage AI. It's impacting every job in every company.
The goal is to improve user experience, right? Not cost.
AI gives us so many tools for us to be able to express difficult, emotional, challenging things in constructive ways. That's a big awakening that I really think our HR leadership should start to get their heads wrapped around.
Steve, welcome to the What the FTE. Great to have you here. You've been at the forefront of the talent space for years, from shaping LinkedIn's early culture to advising some of the biggest companies on the future of work, one of them being Certain. AI is shaking up HR and hiring in a way we've never seen before. And I know you've got some strong views on how leaders can either embrace it or fall behind. Before we dive in, for those who might not be familiar with your work, can you give us a quick snapshot of your background and what's been keeping you busy lately?
Sure. It's great to be here. It's great to be on another show with you. And definitely this topic of AI is going to be one that I think is worthy of hanging out for. So I'm glad we're teeing that up to begin this podcast for the new year. But listen, my background is about 30 plus years in the world of talent, human resources. I've been in 6 different industries, worked in fashion, insurance, semiconductor, networking, video games, and so forth. And my last regular operator role, I was the first chief HR officer for LinkedIn for periods of really high growth from about 400 to 4,000, 4 years that felt like 20. And then for the last dozen years or so, I've been helping organizations, leaders, countries, cities around the world try to build compelling talent strategies to thrive in an increasingly uncertain and unpredictable world of work. And so my clients today include everything from the BBC, Royal Bank of Scotland, City of Lisbon, Portugal, all the way through Manchester United Football Club, and dozens of companies that I've never heard of and the listeners have never heard of, but who are doing things that I think are really, pioneering a new way of creating value in the world of work. A couple of years ago, I published my first book called Workwake. So if you want a very quick, easy read, I encourage the listeners to grab a copy or listen to it on Audible. It'll take you about 4 hours. But that's a little bit of my background.
I mean, I've been privileged to be a close follower for the last decade or so, and I can't thank you enough for all the things that you've done for Certain. And to our listeners, what Steve says is literally gold, and I highly recommend Workwake, whether you're an HR leader, a business leader, or just someone interested in learning about the shift in talent. Interesting, because I feel like there's probably another book coming with AI and the changes that AI is creating. I mean, it's easier than ever for HR to show its value now. How should HR people and talent leaders be using AI to shift from being seen as a cost center to a business driver?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest refrain, the biggest question that's been asked in the domain of HR the entirety of my professional career is, how do we get a seat at the table, right? How does HR find themselves in a place? And I think the question behind that question is really, how do we confirm the value that we can add and the difference we can make in creating value in organizations? And I think it's all about the data and insights. And the first thing I'll say about artificial intelligence in terms of how I think about it is, every business is creating value through people. So people data is probably the goal that you need to try to understand. And the more perspectives you have around that beyond just, employee surveys, engagement scores, exit interview data is, deeper things like who are high performers and where did they come from and what, where did they study? What companies have they, cultures have informed their progression? What skills people have and what is the anatomy of skills so we can see someone's learning trajectory. I mean, there's so many ways I think that we can leverage AI. But before we get to that conversation, I want to start in a much simpler place and say, I think that AI is presenting some challenges for HR in that it's impacting every job in every company. So are we going to just let every department figure that out? Or are we going to be custodians, stewards, concierges, helping product leaders, engineering leaders, marketing leaders think about, hey, this is really seen by the white collar community more than any as kind of a threat, or an opportunity. So, we need to be incredibly fastidious in being students of AI right now. Like, what can we learn, and how can we be stewards of implementing this in jobs, roles, and companies so that it's not just let's use AI to cut costs? Because I think that's the first step that a lot of people are taking, which is a real miss. Like, yeah, let's cut headcount, let's eliminate people. That's how we can use AI. And so I think if we can look at it differently, and HR is in the greatest place to be able to have a voice in this conversation. Like, hey, I think we should look at AI as, how do we make jobs more dynamic, more interesting, more impactful and rewarding? And how can we help people learn how to leverage AI to make an even greater impact in our business, right? Rather than let's help them go faster and get more stressed and anxious and ultimately work themselves out of a job,
Totally agree. Well, I mean, it's how do we make superhumans instead of, how do we, when we talk about AI and the talent and a headcount perspective, like, who cares how many heads you have at the end of the day? You might need less, you might need more, but it's like, where's that room for growth? Like, how do you quantify and track these superhumans that you're creating with AI? How is AI enabling you to create those business outcomes? And then what is the type of talent? Because the type of talent you need, or the skills or characteristics, in my mind, it changes dramatically from, you might need someone there to push a button. That person doesn't exist anymore. But now you need to figure out a person who's figuring out what all the buttons are and how to make those compatible with AI, or how to automate those solutions. And then, and then what's next, right? Like, AI solves a bunch of problems and then creates new opportunities. And from a talent lens, I know on our team, our PNC team is thinking about that, and they're leading the charge just as much as, the finance team would be.
Right, right. And the comprehensiveness of the impact of AI is pretty profound, right? I really like the way you frame that, which is, I think we have to, learn all we can about AI right now, because it's probably going to impact us in ways we don't even imagine. But a good starting point is to say, how can we leverage our knowledge, so that we can unlock the best in people and our organization, right? And that's different from how we thought about technology implementations in the past. It's like, let's download this, let's go through the training, and then let's implement it to go faster and do more and save money. And this is so much more than that. This is, a way to reimagine how to do work. And that's, I think that's where there's some friction right now, because if you think, like, I talk to lots of HR people, and they're excited and threatened by, is that going to take away my ability to make a difference? Is that going to make me less valuable? And I'm like, well, it's definitely going to take away some things, but I don't think they're the things that you're going to miss doing.
No.
And it's going to free you up to look at some insights and data in ways in the organization, ways that you've maybe never been able to see before, right? But that human nature is it a threat? If it is, I think I'm going to try to, hurry up my retirement so I can get out of here before this changes the entire game for me. And it's a little bit scary, because we don't know. And even the creators of AI are as terrified as they are excited, about what AI can do. So, that gets us into this really uncomfortable world of, like, we're going to have to experiment a lot. Every client I talk to, and is asking me, hey, what are companies like us doing with AI? And I go, they're experimenting. That's what they're doing. I don't have a list of wins. I don't have a whole, bunch of benchmark, world-class implementations of AI right now. We're making the sausage, right? So that doesn't mean let's wait, because I think everyone's worried their competitor is going to figure it out faster than they will. So that means we got to start experimenting and finding the teams that we have the most confidence in, that have a high, we have a high confidence level that they're not going to crash the ship, if you will. Like, they're going to implement it, they're going to learn, they're going to iterate and get better, right? And even as certain, we've had this conversation at the board level several times, like with automating customer service chatbots, or automating certain features that are intending to create a greater customer experience, right? But also allowing our staff to do other things that are going to make a bigger difference in the business.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, if you have something in your business that is repetitive, you can now have those people working on the truly complex things. I mean, I'd say it's the 80-20 rule in customer support, which which is 80% of the things that come in are not complicated and can be answered by an AI. There's that 20% that can't yet, and
Mm-hmm.
probably won't be able to for a long time. Plus the experience. I mean, the goal is to improve user experience, right? Not cost. So like
Yeah.
when you're thinking about these types of things, especially from a talent lens, if you talk about that 80-20 rule, you're no longer looking for that person that isn't able to reason and problem solve. You're not looking for what you would traditionally consider that like kind of low cost, outsourceable labor. You're now looking for people that are going to be solving complex problems quickly, and you have to enable them with the tools. So like training is different. The linear training for someone in support in 2025, but really I think 2026, 2027 is people leaders need to start encouraging that training to be enablement of AI and the enablement of solving problems that are linear, because you mostly in those types of problems you only need to solve that problem once. So how do you solve that problem once and train the system to not make that mistake again, or train that organization to flag that mistake and put it through a process that has never before been done. And that's, in my mind, like, I mean, that's the single biggest area where, as a CEO, like, I'm doubling down on my talent leaders. Managers at all levels don't necessarily understand that yet.
That's right. That's right. Because we've been taught, input, output. And what I love about the way you've just sort of described this is it's presenting a new dynamic where you heard it here first on on this podcast. I think job family descriptions are pretty much toast, because a job description, even in my career, even 20 years ago, I should say, like, we used to joke, like, as soon as the job description is done, it's outdated, because jobs are changing. The need for new skills today, AI aside, the need for new skills today is never accelerated as fast as it is right now. So that gets to this whole notion of what you're hinting towards, which is, well, what are the ideal skills that we should be looking for? Because it used to be, I want proof of experience in this particular domain. Now I do want that, but I also want proof you can learn new skills, because we're going to need to pivot our business. I'm going to need new skills. And we see that in the market right now, which is this really interesting dynamic that no economic researchers have seen before, where we're seeing, particularly in technology companies, which I'll say are a little bit faster in terms of the AI adoption, they're laying more people off while they're recruiting. Like, we used to say, put the brakes on recruiting. We got to lay people off and cut costs. Now it's like, we need a new skill set. And what they're not saying, but they're really saying by their actions is, and we don't have the capacity to grow those people fast enough to have the new skills that we need. So we're going to need to go to the open market and find those people. And I think that's creating some friction for a lot of talent leaders. Like, you think your problem is recruiting, when actually the problem is the capacity for us to find new skills or grow new skills, right? And I love how you said, like, learning. We have the capacity to deliver so much new sophistication with learning and training. But I think before that is, am I looking for a profile of someone on my team who can learn and grow, right? And I call that sort of, and I called this out in my book a few years ago, which is learning velocity. Like, I think that's one of the most important skills we should be looking for is, do we have evidence with the candidate we're hiring that they've got the capacity to learn new things? And can we see, as we look at their CV, their LinkedIn profile, that they are showing demonstration of new skills close to when those new skills became, something that was in demand. So they're self-teaching, they're, they're curious, you know what I'm saying? And so, and that sort of, it gets me to this next topic, which I think is super interesting, which is the most important skills I think for a workforce today are human skills, because AI is going to be able to cover. We already heard Jensen Huang, Mr. Top of the world, conquer the semiconductor mountain at NVIDIA. We've already heard him say 5 years ago it was all STEM. And right now it's all English and communication and being able to query the AI technologies to deliver the best possible outputs. And that's like whoa, that's like 5 year shift, right? And so not to say STEM will cease to be important. It sure will. And problem solving and programmers are still going to be in demand, but they're going to be using their human skills as much as their coding skills, if you will, to solve some of these problems. And that's a big awakening that I really think our HR leadership should start to get their heads wrapped around,
How do they do that? I mean, if you were early in your career, how do you have a conversation with your CEO, your leadership team about making this shift, and why you should lead it?
Yeah, yeah. You got to surround yourself with people who know this stuff more than you do, right? Because again, we're at the beginning of it, but I would start the conversation saying, listen, we know the world's heading towards AI. Does anyone here really good at this, understand this? No. Okay, well, we need to go find some people, form an advisory board, advisory council, whether it sits within HR, whether it sits, reporting to the board or wherever on the technology frontier, because we haven't even talked about the ethical, challenges and considerations. Think about on the talent side of the house for recruiting. Like public data right now includes the access to divorce records and real estate records. That's public information. If you filed for divorce, if you are divorced and or two completely different things, but for the sake of example, kind of leads to a little bit potential cringe. I also can find out, what did you pay for that house? I could also find out, what the value of the house is that you own. Is that something that I should be in possession of as I consider your compensation? Probably not, probably not. But it's public data and it's never been accessible at scale until probably tomorrow when AI is going to say, let's go in and get all the public records on, real estate and, family court.
It's already there. I mean, you talk about operator. It's like, I need you to go to this website and tell me how much this person paid for their house,
Right.
Or
right.
I need to know, knowledge is at the end of your fingertips now. I mean, with all the new models, I mean, most of us have ChatGPT of some sort, and you throw operator in now. I mean, no site is off limits. I mean, CAPTCHAs and getting past the traditional blockers, like those are pretty well gone when it comes to AI. So there's definitely an ethical piece there. I like the learning velocity piece as well. I think for talent leaders to be able to go to their executives, their CEO, and say, we need to start looking for different people. The people that we're trying to recruit now are not the people that we're looking for. And you don't need to be an expert in AI to be able to say, like, we need to change our job descriptions and we need to change our scoring criteria to say we need people who are very comfortable with change, because the only thing that we can be certain of over time is that change is happening, and that velocity of change now is exponentially faster. I mean,
Right.
OpenAI is releasing a new model, it seems like every month, that is changing the game, and there will be more. I mean, I've seen more companies created and destroyed in the last year than I think I have in my whole career, because it's like every day there's a new change, there's something new that AI enables, and for those talent leaders to be able to have that conversation and to be able to look at the talent that they have. I know they're doing it at Facebook and Amazon and all these other places, because as you said, I don't necessarily think they're laying people off from a cost perspective. Maybe they are, but they're hiring at the same rate, and they're hiring for those skills, that learning velocity, that before they just wanted to hire the best Python developer, but tomorrow Python might not be a thing.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go back to your question, because I think it's a really important one. So how should we think about this in conversations with our CEOs and our executive leadership teams? I think we have to go into these conversations recognizing that we have an employee population that is feeling afraid and threatened, and that we're not going to get great performance from our team unless we have a high degree of trust. So, how are we going to build our relationship with artificial intelligence and our employee organization? Let's have open conversations. Let's get an AI advisory council together with various constituents and good representatives from within the organization. And then let's start doing, this is going to sound a little bit cheeky, but I really believe this is important. And I'm starting to see some of my clients implement it, which is in the same way most food has a label on it when you go to the store, like how many calories, what's the protein, carbohydrate, sugar, and all that stuff. I think we need an AI nutrition label for our projects and our utilization of it. Is this good? Does this project using AI adhere to our culture? Does this project, is it going to lead to, maybe some disengagement, some job loss, some fear, and if it does, send in a signal to us that there's concern, what are we going to do to talk about that and communicate that with our team in a way that builds trust, right? They're going to need to be these conversations, and not everyone is going to make the employees happy. But I think to build trust, you have to be open and honest around even the hard things that are happening. And that's the beginning, I think, of building this muscle of leveraging something like we've never seen before. And the next thing I really feel strongly about is, please try not to have your first implementation of AI be a headcount reduction. Like, let's start with, how does this AI make jobs more interesting, fascinating, amazing, and maybe, and this is a big debate I've had with lots of friends. Like, some of my friends are like so sure the 4-day work week's coming. And I am so not sure the 4-day work week's coming, because as soon as your investors say you can do all that in only 4 days, well, then we got another day. Let's fill it with some other stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
Or that means that you can move everyone back to 5 days and cut 20% of your headcount.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, I think people who are thinking 4 days are not thinking about the fact that there's a whole investor community that's saying, I want a big return here, and I don't know that that's necessarily something they're going to be excited about. But those are the same people who are investing in brain research that says we should only be working 3 or 4 days a week, and they're the ones still working 7 days a week,
Well, we know that people vote with their wallet. So, that's,
Mm-hmm.
that's true in business as well. I mean, I don't think it's a good thing, but I think that, that those are really the pressures.
Yeah.
And
And let's follow that train of thought. So on AI, who do you listen to? I'm asking the listener, who is your source of truth? Is it big tech? Is it Sam Altman and Mustafa Suleyman and OpenAI and Microsoft and all the folks over at Google? Or is it someone who might be a little more objective, who's not selling you something? I mean, beware the company that's telling you to leverage AI that's going to benefit financially from you using AI.
OpenAI is the Ozempic of work. Come on.
That's right. And so, I think we all need to build our list. I did a LinkedIn post about this about 6 months ago. I said, I'm really struggling to put a list together. I have one guy at NYU, Connor Grennan, who I can't listen to enough around, oh my gosh, look at this new thing that Claude is doing or Gemini's doing, or, a notebook, Excel, whatever, notebook LM. So who are your sources, and are they, unbiased? And are they, fair in their interpretation? I think that's really, we need these tour guys. And again, it's a new forest. We don't have a lot of maps for this yet,
I completely agree. I mean, I think that's a good leadership strategy, is giving people the tools to be able to know, what and who to listen to. I'm biased because the chief product officer of OpenAI is on our cap table, so I'm listening to him. Kevin. I've been listening to Kevin since long before he joined OpenAI. But I think you saying this makes me realize that I'm in a privileged position to have access to some of this knowledge. So
Right.
maybe we need to start giving our teams access to this knowledge to make them more comfortable with the changes. So instead of it coming from me, how does it come from other people within the organization to say, hey, this is coming so that we can address some of this stuff, instead of just a top down, like, we're going to implement AI to do this. I also think for business leaders, it has to be, we have to stop talking about we're implementing AI to cut costs or to improve margin, or it's like we need to start thinking about it from the customer outcome perspective. That was a big shift that we did this year is anything that we're doing in product design engineering, any new product that we're delivering
Mm.
is not about cutting costs.
Mm.
That might be a byproduct. It's about improving the service to our stakeholders, our customers, and in our case, have a bit of a two-sided marketplace because we have candidates that have to
Right.
give us information and consent, and then we've got the businesses that rely on our information to run their businesses. We need to do the things that are best for them. So, to save a few bucks by using an AI support bot that gives a really crappy experience, those are things that like we need to cut. Now, if it's a great experience, which I think we all want to work towards, then that's amazing. If it can cover the stuff that nobody wants to do to answer those questions that don't need to be answered by a human in like seconds, milliseconds, that's what we need to invest in. But we got to stop having leaders talk about like, oh, you might be able to reduce headcount because of this thing, but like, let's just do it for the customers. Like, let's really focus on what the customer wants. And then we can get that outcome. And I think HR leaders can be a driver for that as well, especially as we look at resources to say like, this is a pool of talent that we have. Mm-hmm. With these new tools, here's the leverage and here's the growth that we can get from these people, especially the ones with this skill set, especially the ones with this ability to learn and to thrive in change. Like, let's double down on these people. And maybe there's a headcount reduction in the people that don't have those characteristics or can't keep up on that perspective.
Yeah.
But if you can have a whole group of people that have that learning velocity,
yeah,
the sky's the limit as to where your business is going to go. It's like, who cares who cares how many you have? Like if you're putting $1 into this talent and you're getting $2, $3, $4, $5, $6 out, like, let's not talk about cost reduction. Like, let's talk about overall impact to our customers and our business.
Yeah. Let me give you a story here, share a story with the listeners that kind of pulls some of the things we're talking about, all kind of full circle here around training, development, AI skills, and capacity for HR to make a bigger impact. This is back, I'm talking like maybe 2010 at LinkedIn, and we realized the future of computing was going to be in the cloud, and we needed to find, hire, grow Python talent. And because we're LinkedIn, we could go on LinkedIn and go, there's not enough people that have this skill for us to hire. We're going to have to build it. And someone on the team, I don't remember who it was, said, hey, listen, okay, since we're going to have to build it, what can we do to target people who are going to give us a high degree of confidence, can understand this and do it well and enjoy it? Well, let's look at everyone who's doing Python today. What skills did they have? What precursor skills and experiences did they have? What environments were they working in? And what we did was we've sort of found a formula of most of the people using Python were working on these kinds of technologies before, okay? And so then we applied that knowledge to our entire engineering team, and we found 15 people that fit that profile. That sort of said, hey, they're probably going to like it. They're probably going to be good at it. And we've got a high degree of confidence given all the people using Python today had this pedigree, okay? And so we went to those people and said, hey, would you like to go to a 6-month, 4-month boot camp? Because this is not super, super complex technology to understand. And stop your day job, learn this, and then start applying it in a new way. And they're like, you would do that? Yeah. And that's what I think the power that we have at our fingertips right now, sort of say, okay, before we hit the, nuke that team and get them out of here, not to mention any names, Meta, before we do something like that, why don't we first see what do we think we're going to need, and who in the people that we're targeting reducing might give us a clue in their background is going to be able to learn this stuff quickly. Because I've been saying this for years. I think people are loyal to learning today more than anything. And if you feed that, you're going to get a lot of the rewards and, and performance out of them. And that, I think we've not done a good job of that traditionally, because it's like, oh, you don't have that experience? We got to go hire someone who's got the experience. But you give someone something they've never done before, it's going to give enormous energy to them and to your business. And I think that's what AI can help us, see those opportunities that we were invisible to us before.
I don't think truer words have ever been said. We had a situation recently, a very positive situation, where I wanted to reward a group of people for doing something incredible. Um, they were given the option of a cash bonus or a learning opportunity. Um, Actually, a learning opportunity to go learn more about AI in the Bay Area with the leaders in AI. Every single person, regardless of where they are in their lives. I mean, some of them have new children. They're all like, I'll get on a plane. I want to go do this learning opportunity. I don't need it. Like the cash doesn't interest me. Like
How recent is this?
2 weeks ago.
Bro, you got to do a white paper. You got to get that out there because the world needs to hear that. That doesn't shock me, and I'm so thrilled to hear that. That was great.
I mean, it was amazing. And I announced it to the company that this group of people is going to go do this thing, and a number of people that were like, "Hey,
What about me?
yeah, hey, that if I given them a few $1,000 bonus or whatever, like I don't think people would have been like, what about me? But they're like, oh, this is a really good opportunity. Like, I'd like to go go do that too. And then all of a sudden, it's you start seeing we give everyone a budget to go do learning and development. That maybe this isn't. I just find that usually that's underutilized, and all the founders that I know, they're like, it's kind of like a buffer in your budget, which upsets me because I actually want people to go learn and grow. And now we've seen an uptick in this because it's like, oh, there was this reward. It's like, oh, that's a cool opportunity. I'd like to go do that. Oh, and hey, I have this pool of money that I can go do that with that benefits the company and me personally. So I think
that's amazing leadership. And I have to say, one of the big challenges we have in business, and particularly in HR right now, is that the architecture of a business plan has not included, I think, enough investment of time for people to learn new stuff. It's seen, and we see that, and I've seen it traditionally the entirety of my career. The first department let go in a downturn is the training and development organization, right? But if you really believe that need for new skills is going to only accelerate, then I think it begs the question: should we be partnering with our CFO, finance community, saying we need a different business plan that isn't all about people producing? It's about people producing and learning. And I'm not saying budget for classes. I'm saying assign people to new projects, but not expecting immediate outcome as much from every minute, but assign them for new projects, new assignments, and new challenges so that we've got that blend of learning and doing. And you're feeding that hunger, that trip to Silicon Valley, to be among the AI luminaries. It's so like, oh my gosh, that energy you've already got before they've even been there is going to lift them to do more stuff for you. And that I think is a great leadership example of how something really, really small can have disproportionate positive outcomes, right?
That's actually probably a good transition to how our viewers can have disproportionate outcomes in their business. So again, back to your early days. Maybe let's not call them early days, but back when you wanted to make bold moves as an HR leader, what are the boldest moves an HR leader can make today to position themselves as an AI strategic business leader?
I think start to play around, experiment with your data and the knowledge that you have and the resources that you have to really demonstrate how you can shine a light on something that was invisible before. Start with your high performers. Get all your high performers that you've identified and say, what patterns can we find here that can inform us targeting more high performers? What are they? That would be number one. Number two, I would say the biggest sand in the gears of any business is the capacity for us to have hard conversations and to do I'll have to say it here, I've tried to avoid it, performance appraisals. The AI gives us so many tools for us to be able to express difficult, emotional, challenging things in constructive ways. Like start using these tools so that people like, okay, here's the profile of my employee. This is what their performance was. I'm really scared that when I say this, they're going to react emotionally. They're going to be a worse performer. I think they've got a chance to grow. How would you fill in the blank AI tool recommend that I communicate this to them? Start using that right now. It's incredible, and use it in a constructive voice and how you do that. I have had so many experiences with people that are stuck, frozen in fear out of some sort of emotional thing, use a chat GPT and have incredibly good coaching, and you could just tell it, hey, you are the best psychologist in the entire country giving me advice, and I want to ignite this person and fire them up, but I'm really worried about it. And you can get some really great. And if you don't like it, say, yeah, give me another suggestion, and I had a really funny experience today. I'll have to share on a similar topic. I asked ChatGPT to help me with a post and gave me this post idea of an article I wanted to comment on. And I said, well, can you put it in my voice? More in my voice. This is not in my voice. This is sort of like a robot talk. Put it in my voice. And I've already loaded my book and every other, posting I've ever done. So it kind of knows my voice. And it comes back and Grammarly finds all these mistakes in it. I'm like, so what does that say? Like, I'm speaking in sort of like slang. Like, what is my voice? But it was really like, yeah, I do want to talk about stuff that way. That is my voice. I don't care about what Grammarly says. That's the way I want to express it. It was a great, so like, it's getting me. You know what I'm saying?
Uh, that's funny. I need to start checking the spelling of anything that I put through OpenAI because my spelling on a regular day is terrible. I'm a heavy reliance on Grammarly and spell checking. I should, but I don't spell check anything that goes into or out of an LLM that's supposed to be perceived as coming out of my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
But to answer your question, the bold moves, what are the biggest needle movers for your business? And try to seek those opportunities out, and that's going to give you immediate, I think, some wins on the board, right?
Amazing. I love it, Steve. This was awesome. I am so grateful to have been able to spend this time with you. Thank you all for watching today, and we'll see you next time on the What the FTE podcast.